Alright, in this video we're going to go over the leg sweep. And so the leg sweep is normally used as a variation of the hip throw. So you can see we have two individuals here in a neutral clinch, have one arm over, and then he's got his other arm under, so they're essentially in the same position. The gaze is towards the ground, just like with a hip throw. But if you have an individual that's extremely tall or much taller than you and you attempt a hip throw but you can't get their feet off the ground because their hips are taller than yours, then you won't be able to throw them. And so the leg sweep is a good alternative to the hip throw. And so what the person in gray is going to do is he's going to step to the outside of the lead leg of the guy in black, and instead of throwing him over his hip, he's going to use his leg, this back leg here, once he steps to the outside, to throw the attacker over that leg. And it also allows you to go after arm bars from the throw. If you hang on to this arm here, you'll have an arm exposed for an arm bar, so you could use that as a submission from this throw. So let's go ahead and watch this real quick. So here he's going to step behind, and then he pulls him over the leg. So that's your hip throw from neutral clinch, or leg sweep from neutral clinch. So he steps through. We do this nice and slow. So you notice here he's still looking towards the ground. He's a little upright, but he's still leaning forward. And you'll be able to see in the next shot that he's leaning forward when he's throwing this leg sweep. Now if he was perfectly upright, it's just going to be a battle of wills, who's stronger, who's going to have the better leverage. But as long as he leans forward, he's always going to have leverage, because as he leans forward, it's going to push this individual back, and so he can use his body weight instead of strength to help get the leverage for the throw. And so he's going to throw him right over this leg. And so this would be the middle portion of the leg to the upper portion would be ideal for the throwing. He's going to pull him down over that leg, and you'll notice here at the end of the throw that he's going to have an arm exposed. So if he wanted this arm, he's essentially made a tripod here. So there's 3 points of contact with the ground. He's got his legs here as the base of the triangle, and then he's got his arm resting on the ground. So if he wanted to, he could snag this arm fairly easy, and if this person on the bottom tried to attempt to pull him on over, he's got a good base because he's got 3 points of contact on the floor. He's not likely to be pulled off balance. So let's go ahead and watch the next clip. I believe the next one is just the footwork. So what he's going to do is, I'm going to do this frame by frame here. So he's going to step to the outside of the lead leg. Now if this leg was back, what you really need this leg to be in front. He would pull him back until he steps forward, and once he steps forward, then he would initiate this leg going to the outside. So let me do this frame by frame so you can kind of see. He's going to step to the outside of the leg, and then he's going to pull with his upper body, which you can't see right now, and pull him over the leg. And I believe these next couple of clips are going to show a different angle. So let's get to those clips real quick, and I'll show you what I meant by him leaning forward. Now this is actually really good technique here. You notice how he's leaning forward, and he's leaning all of his weight here on this arm. He's not trying to muscle it down, so he's not trying to use arm strength to pull it down. He's just using his arms to hold it to his chest, and then he's leaning forward and he's looking straight down towards the ground. That's great technique. It's going to give him a lower center of gravity. It's going to allow him to get better leverage. So now when he shifts to the outside, and if you wanted to, you notice how this hand's up here, he could grip the waistband or he could grab some cloth. Typically I'll grab the waistband because it gives me a real good leverage point so the person can't pull away from me. And you see that a lot in competitions where an individual has a gi, and the gi is so thick that the waistband is ideal to grab because it's not going to rip. So person in gray is going to step to the outside. Now he's raising up just so that he can get that leg to the outside. Get over here, but he's still leaning forward. Now this is what I was talking about earlier. Notice how he's leaning forward. He's leaning all of his weight. That's forcing this individual back. and so he's going to have more leverage. So he could essentially just throw himself to the floor if he wanted to here, and it's still going to trip this individual up. So let's go ahead and watch the rest of this. See how far he's leaning forward. Now he's going to get leverage from the arm to pull him over the leg. He's actually a little higher up. He's almost on the hip at this point, but it serves the same purpose. And then he throws him to the ground, and he's still got this arm. So if he wanted that, all he's got to do is step over the head, and then he's got him an arm bar right there from the leg sweep. So let's watch this again, and here's those 3 points of contact again. So again, leaning over, looking down towards the ground. His weight is pulling the guy in black. It's pulling him forward. So the guy in gray is going to have more control of this position because of how he's laying across the arm. But the individual in black could do the same thing. So now he's going to step behind. You notice how he kind of sways his weight back? That's good. Because if this leg wasn't forward, it's going to cause this individual at some point in time, the more the guy in gray pulls back, he's eventually going to have to step forward. And when he does, that's when he's going to initiate this leg sweep. So you notice how he's kind of leaned or pulled him forward. That's forcing him to put all this weight on this lead leg to support all this extra weight of the guy in gray leaning. And now he can initiate that leg sweep. Again, he's looking down towards the ground. He's always leaning forward. That's forcing this guy to lean back so that he'll never have enough leverage to throw him. So the guy in gray will always have the leverage to initiate the throw, but the guy in black will never have the leverage because he's always leaning back. And again, throws him a little higher up off the leg, but it could be a little higher on the hip, but essentially you're using that step behind the leg. You're not going, your rotation's not the same as what you would see in a hip throw. And then down to the ground he goes, and here's the footwork. So he steps behind the lead leg and then throws him over that leg. And again, pretty high on the hip here, but you could use the leg as well. And that is the leg sweep. It's a good alternative to the hip throw, especially if you're not as physical, if you don't have as much muscle strength to throw an individual. This is a good alternative. And if the person is much taller than you, this is a better alternative than attempting a hip throw, because if the person is extremely tall, a hip throw may not be effective. It's not in all cases. If you're extremely good at hip throws, you could still toss somebody. It's just going to be much more difficult. The taller or the higher their hips are in relation to yours makes it much more difficult to throw them. So that was a leg sweep, and I will see you in the next video.